Welcome to the final Viva Engage Masterclass session. In this session, we'll explore the fascinating world of Viva Engage Analytics. I'm Samik. I'm part of the Viva Engage customer experience team. We work very closely with our customers to ensure they derive value from our product in collaboration with our engineering and product team. I'll ask now Giovanni and Tenny, leaders from our product analytics team, to introduce themselves before we proceed any further.
Thank you, Samik. Hi, everyone. I'm Jovi. I'm calling in today, like Tenny, from the San Francisco Bay Area. It's so good to see so many of you join us. I'm a product manager for Viva Engage, working primarily on analytics experiences. And before I was a product manager, I was a data scientist. So I've worked on both sides of our data analytics experiences, and I'm happy to be here today to dive in more deeply on all things Viva Engage analytics. Off to you, Tenny.
Thanks, Jovi. And I'm Tenny Shapiro. I'm a data science manager on the Engage team, and I also help lead our in-products analytics experiences. So like Jovi, I'm working on product, but I come at it as a data scientist. So today we'll also be showing you some of the behind the scenes of our metrics, how we develop them, how we think about them, and hopefully just give you excitement and confidence around what we're sharing in product.
Great. I'm sure everyone is looking forward to learn more, and no one better to guide us through than Tenny and Jovi. Okay, before diving further into details of analytics available in Viva Engage, we wanted to share some resources for our corporate communicator friends. The modern communication microsite, which is now live, you can access it using ak.ms, modern employee comms. The site has tailored help articles, guides, for you to get started in connection with employees, supporting leadership, engaging in various dialogues with audiences in your network. It offers a wealth of guides and resources that facilitate knowledge sharing and strategic use of AI in your roles in communication. Highly recommend. Please let us know how you can use this content. If there is any feedback, we're happy to learn more as well and work on it as next steps. We want to also call out that we have a communications track at the Microsoft 365 Community Conference, which is coming up very, very soon. If you've already registered or plan to attend, the Viva Engage product team and our leaders, along with Microsoft's communication leaders, will be there presenting. We have a packed lineup there. Starts from May 6th to 8th in Las Vegas. So if you're looking to join, have registered, again, we'd love to connect with you in person. Now coming to the Monday Masterclass. This was a series which we designed to help customers understand the value of Viva Engage over the 6-week period. We're now in the final leg of the series. I'm sure you've seen value as you join these sessions. The session aims to enhance your understanding of analytics, and we'll go into how you can use the data available in Viva Engage to drive engagement, improve collaboration within your organization. And as we examine the features and benefits of Viva Engage Analytics, think of how you can use these insights and apply it to your work. We will dive deep into aspects of analytics and insights. So please take notes. Do take screenshots. There'll be opportunity for you to take screen grabs and make that your wallpaper. Things which you can use in your day-to-day as you get started starting tomorrow. Please take notes again and use the Q&A functionality in Teams to share your questions with us. We're happy to address all questions, and we have our product team available as well to address most of your questions here. Today's agenda will guide us through analytics in Viva Engage. We'll begin with the fundamentals to lay the background for our discussion. Then we'll go into beyond the basics, exploring advanced analytics capabilities. The third section will go into Engage like a pro. In here, we'll focus on strategies to enhance your employee engagement and communication using insights available in Viva Engage. You'll notice the licensing key. Let me show that here. The M365 icon here denotes these are features in analytics, which is available to all our customers. You'll also see the Viva icon appear in some slides, which denote that these features or specific features and slides are going to be part of the Viva CNC or the Viva Suite SKU. So you'll need those licenses for you to actually use some of those features. But nonetheless, the value which you can get from Viva Engage, irrespective of the license, is immense, and we'd love to go over them in detail. Quick plug, please share your takeaways from the Masterclass series, from the analytics one today, or any of the other sessions that you've already joined. Use the hashtag Viva Engage or LinkedIn, or if you're part of the customer community, please share that feedback with us as well. Again, we will select winners based on what you share with us, and you'll get one-on-one time with our product team to share any of these topics which are top of mind. We can go into more details. If you have not signed up already, please use the form link shared in this slide, or I've shared it in the chat as well, to join the customer community. Again, it's a thriving community where you can ask questions. Our product and engineering team is part of that community as well, so you get your questions answered real time. And yes, all of these sessions as part of the masterclass will be recorded and will be available in the adoption site. The recordings for this session will be updated at the end of this week. So look out for that. And now I'll hand it over to Tenny and Jovi to discuss the fundamentals of Viva Engage Analytics.
Awesome, thank
Over to you.
I'll go ahead and take control here. Okay. So like Samik mentioned, one of the things that we definitely want to share is that there are analytics experiences for everyone on Viva Engage. Throughout this section, we'll discuss in detail who exactly has access to what set of analytics. So every slide, make sure that going forward, you keep your eyes on the upper right-hand corner, as that will indicate the licensing required to view some of these analytics. And in cases where there are specific user roles required to view some of these analytics, I'll also be sure to call those out. So for starters, we did want to lead with explicitly saying what analytics experiences are available to everyone. So anyone who has an M365 license will be able to see detailed community analytics, which show reach and membership engagement trends that happen within the community. And community analytics are available to both community members and community admins. We also have detailed conversation analytics available to everybody. So anybody who creates a post on Viva Engage will be able to understand engagement that goes beyond just views on posts. You'll be able to see things like different engagement trends, like who's bookmarked up your post or who's shared it. And then we also have live event analytics, which are available to anybody who hosts a live event or members of the organizing party of that particular live event. That shows you things like attendance and viewership and engagement over time for your particular live event. Within community analytics, you also would have access to Q&A insights. These are things that show you how knowledge is being dispersed within your community that you manage. And then the broadest set of analytics that are available for network-wide engagement is available to you if you're a network admin directly in Viva Engage, the admin center, or the M365 admin center as well. So those are all the sets of analytics that are available to you if you have the M365 license. If you have the Viva Suite or CNC licensing, then you have access to what we call advanced analytics. And all of the existing M365 analytics are available to you in addition to more detailed metrics for each of these experiences. So within conversation analytics, some of those additional metrics include things like sentiment analysis and AI theme extraction. You also have more detailed personal analytics available to you to both show you more about who exactly is engaging with the content that you post on Engage, but also answer specific analytics that show you just how much you're helping people within your organization with your Q&A engagements. For leaders and their delegates within Engage Analytics, we offer audience analytics. So leaders on Engage can have an audience assigned to them. And that's usually an organization in which the leader tries to tailor content to specifically. And so audience analytics is a scoped down version of engagement that happens within a leader's particular organization. We also have campaign analytics. So if you're running a campaign on Engage, you can see detailed metrics that show you just how many people are viewing content that's been posted to your campaign, or how many posts in general are happening within your particular campaign. And then we have a global view of answer analytics available as well. So if you're a network admin, or if you have a knowledge admin role within your organization, you can get a good sense of how knowledge is being distributed across your entire organization, and monitor things like time saved across your entire organization. And finally, we have network analytics available directly on Viva Engage. This is a really detailed overview of all the engagement that's happening across your network, including things like sentiment analysis across your entire network, and theme extraction, which shows you a summarized view of the major topics and things that folks are talking about within your organization. So we wanted to just start off by showing you that, so that you have an understanding of what is available to you within the M365 licensing versus what's available to you within the Viva Suite or CNC licensing. For the remainder of this first section, we're going to be covering the fundamentals. So we will dive more deeply into every single one of these experiences and speak a bit more about which metrics in particular you would have available to you within these experiences, and some of the best practices that we've seen folks implement when using these analytics. But also wanted to touch right off the bat on some of our FAQs. So these are things that we get a lot of questions about with regard to our analytics. So wanted to address some of the most popular metric definitions, right? These are things that you're going to see and hear from us during the remainder of our conversation and our time here today. So for starters, I wanted to explicitly define reach. So reach, sometimes you'll hear us use this interchangeably with like seen or views that are happening. And reach essentially encompasses the unique users who have interacted with your content. And so sometimes we use this interchangeably with views, because views are the minimum engagement that is required for a user to be considered reached. Secondarily, you'll see engagement mentioned a lot within our dashboards. When we discuss engagement, we mean activities beyond views that might happen on your content. So that includes things like people are posting a reply to your conversations, and that's considered a comment, or they're reacting to things, or just folks in general are posting thread starters, right? That's engagement. And so what you might see in some of our dashboards is like something like an engage percentage. And that means that it's the number of people who are engaging over the denominator in that case would be reach. So you'll see that sometimes in our dashboards as well. With regard to views and seen by, anytime that you see this in the product, these are capturing unique views and unique users who are viewed content. So a lot of times you'll see this on a post in the upper right-hand corner of a thread. You'll a lot of times see a seen by count, and that represents the unique number of people who have seen a particular conversation. We get a lot of questions around how and when exactly users are considered to have seen content. And as long as a full thread, a full post has come into view on the feed, then that would be considered a seen by or a view. It doesn't matter where exactly that view is coming from. So if a view is happening on a mobile client, or if a view is happening on like an Outlook email, it would be considered a view by that user. Posts versus comments. So a post, when we use that in our analytics, we're referring to the top message, the thread started message of a conversation, versus when we use comments or replies, it means that there's the messages that are being posted in response to that thread starter. People engaged, so I covered this a little bit, but just to reiterate, that's the number of unique people who have taken one of the following actions, either commented or reacted or posted a message. To put that in like an example of like percent of people who have engaged, you might see that a lot in the dashboards as well. It's just showing the number of people who have done one of those actions. Total engagements is slightly different, because we show the actual event counts of how many people are doing actions. So whereas people engaged will show you a unique number of people doing an action. Total engagements can count the activities that people do multiple times. So for instance, if I were to go in on a post and write 5 replies, I would be counted as 1 person engaged, but that would be 5 total engagements. Okay. We have AI themes and sentiment also within our Viva Suite or Viva CNC analytics experiences. Just wanted to discuss a little bit about what exactly that means. We use LLMs, large language model technology, to extract the major themes that people are speaking about within conversations across Engage. So in a lot of our analytics experiences, you'll see some themes surface along with summaries of the conversations related to those themes, and also sentiment analysis associated with those themes. So this really helps you get an at-a-glance view of what exactly people are speaking about within your organization and how they feel about the things that they're speaking about. But all of that is derived from the content of the conversation itself. So we have our LLM reading over all the conversations that are posted, and you'll see a little bit more about what that experience actually looks like in the slides to come. And finally, data refresh periods. Most of our dashboards refresh on a daily basis. There are a few that refresh in real time. So what that means is you can expect most of the numbers within the dashboards to update within 24 hours. Within conversation analytics, community analytics, and the event analytics like live events and AMAs, all those analytics update pretty much immediately. So as soon as new content is posted for like a community, you would see that data reflected pretty much immediately. Yep. Great. So a couple more FAQs here to address. This is a question that was posted very recently within our customer connection community. And it's a great example of the type of questions that we get quite often. So felt like we wanted to bring this in as well. So what you can see here is that there was a community manager looking at their community analytics, and they noticed that there was a number on the left-hand side within their member activity that showed there's about 1,088 members within their community, and yet they saw that less than 5% of those members were engaged within their community. Then they looked on the right-hand side and noticed that it said there was about 53 members engaged, and it showed an 89% increase. So their question essentially was, so what does the 89% increase mean in this context? So let's do some math together. 53 members engaged over about 1,088 members in the total community would be about a 4.8% engagement rate. So that's why we're showing that there's less than 5% of members engaged within the community. The 89% next to 53 is meant to indicate that there's been an 89% growth in members engaged compared to the previous period. Right? So this is what we call rate of change. We show these deltas across the majority of our analytics experiences. So if you see a delta, just know that you're seeing the rate of change compared to the prior time period. Right? So in this case, if there were 53 members engaged within this community, and that represents an 89% increase, then there was approximately 28 members who engaged in the community in the previous time period. So most of our analytics experiences show last 7 days, 28 days, 90 days, and a year. So you can do this kind of analysis over all of those time periods. Okay. Another frequently asked question that we get a lot is related to activities by platform. You might refer to this as activities by channel or by client. We mean to capture where exactly engagement is happening, right? So within like network analytics and within some conversation analytics, you would see this activities by platform table. It shows you which people who have viewed your content are engaging from, let's say, mobile versus SharePoint versus Outlook. Because like I said, it doesn't matter where a view is happening. We do count a view on the particular thread, right? So that's why we bring in this activities by platform, so you can best understand where exactly your audience is engaging from. There are a couple caveats here, and I'll start with Outlook views. So on our Outlook emails, this means that if you've seen a engaged thread within an Outlook email, as long as the post comes into view in the feed, we would count it as a view as a post of that view. However, there are some cases where you may have seen an Outlook Digest email. In those cases, there are multiple threads included in the message. We're really only capturing the views that happen on the first message. So this is currently the case with our telemetry. We're really only able to tell that folks have opened up the email and have viewed that first message, but we are planning to close this like view logging gap in the near future. So then all Outlook email threads would be considered viewed. But for the current case, anytime that there's multiple emails included in your Outlook digest, views would only be captured on that first message that's shown. Secondarily, another question we get a lot is, what is this others platform? So we do show engagement that happens from web, from Teams, from SharePoint, from Outlook, from mobile. Those clients all capture the majority of engagement across most of our customers. However, there are some cases where we see some customers have set up like a third-party API or have like Engage embedded on a site that we don't recognize or that's not very popular across our other customers. So that engagement that happens would be captured within the others category. So that's just to kind of help you understand where the different engagement might be happening from. And most often, whenever we see the others client pop up, it's usually due to a third-party API or embedded instance of Engage. Great. So that wraps up some of the FAQ portion. And now we'll dive in a little bit more into the specifics of what's available to you within your Engage analytics. So we're going to start off with conversation analytics. This is the most granular, the most detailed of our analytics experiences, and then we'll work our way up. So we'll go from conversation analytics to community to events, and then wrap up with network. Again, for each one of these experiences, I am going to call out what's included in the M365 licensing versus what's included in the Viva Suite or CNC licensing, but please also know that that's denoted with the little icon that you'll see on every slide in the upper right-hand corner. Okay, so starting first with what you'll see, what everyone would see within conversation analytics, there are detailed metrics that capture reach and engagement, but beyond that, we also have a couple indicators of what things that may lead to spikes in engagement. So a lot of our customers have found this really useful to look at the conversations trend table and analyze specifically if there's a conversation that has gotten an unusual spike up in engagement, it may be due to a couple key events, like maybe the conversation was featured or was pinned within a community. Those are two tactics that we've seen a lot of folks use when they want to emphasize a message or a post within a community. So those are two events that are captured within the conversation trends table. That chart can also just be really useful to understand the lifespan of your thread and when exactly engagement is happening. We also have a couple other really helpful things here. That, for instance, you can tell when something has been like bookmarked or shared, and if it has been shared to other communities, you would see who shared it and where exactly it's been shared. So this type of information we've heard has been very helpful as well. And you can also get an at-a-glance view here about what the most popular comments are on your posts. In some cases, you know, your conversation might not have a ton of comments, in which case you could go through one by one, but especially in cases where it's a very popular conversation and you're getting a lot of comments, this top comments table could be very helpful to help you understand where it is that you might need to respond to someone or address a concern that may have come up in the conversation that you posted. So anybody who creates content can see this. If you have a leader and they have a delegate team assigned, they can also see these detailed conversation analytics. Community admins can see conversation analytics in any community that they manage. And also corporate communicators have access to any detailed analytics posted in conversations within public groups. This data refreshes in real time. So as a conversation is gaining in popularity, you can see pretty much immediate updates to the data to better understand, what's going on with the engagement on a particular post. Now, as part of the advanced conversation analytics, you would have access to all of those metrics in addition to things like custom date range. So in addition to things like the last 7 days, 28 days, or last year, you could pick specifically a smaller or larger time frame. So you could look at trends like within the past 48 hours or the past 72 hours. That could really help you get a better sense of, exactly when engagement was coming in and any differences in engagement trends over specific time periods. There's also additional insights like where this activity is coming from. So that's like that client breakdown. So you could see where folks are viewing your content from or where they're reacting or replying from. And then finally, you would also have access to themes and sentiment that's coming from your comments. So you could see how exactly your content's resonating with your audience. Okay, so moving on from conversation analytics to community analytics. So community analytics has a ton of value for both community members and community admins. So if you're a community admin, one of the recommendations that we have is to review these community analytics at the onset of your community. So when you're first in the early stages of growing your community, to see the changes in any of your engagement and growth rates over time, but also during the state in which you're trying to maintain community engagement, we really recommend that you also look at analytics so that you can better understand what's leading to some of the engagement trends, right? So beyond some of these metrics, which just to be sure I cover them, you have like reach, you have engagement, you have members engaged, you can see how many views are happening on the post, how many messages have been posted, and the reactions that come in on each of your posts. But you can also see things like the top conversations that have been posted within your community. And you can also understand these trends over time and knowledge sharing within your community over time. So these are metrics that we've heard community admins really get the most out of because then they can see which conversations in particular are doing really well versus which ones might need a little more of an engagement push from them and which ones might be conversations that don't have any engagement that they might want to engage with or bring folks in from outside of the community in to respond to. Knowledge sharing is really important. We know there's a lot of communities that, all that they prioritize is really questions and answers and filling that knowledge gap within the organization. So this knowledge sharing section can be really helpful for measuring that impact. And all of this data, just also want to make it really clear, you can have available to you via export in a CSV. So another thing we've heard a lot is that it's helpful to have access to all of these, the underlying data for a lot of these metrics so that you can make some of your own more detailed analysis. And so that is available for community analytics and something that we've heard is very helpful for a lot of our customers. So beyond that set of metrics available to those with M365 licensing, you would also have access to custom date range if you have the Viva CNC or Suite licensing available to you. So, this can be really helpful if you're looking, for instance, to export some data from a specific like 2-week period of time. You can do that with the custom date range available to you within Community Analytics. We also have a detailed overview of like optimizer tips for community admins. And this helps you better understand who exactly is contributing most within your community, whether they're leaders, members, non-members, or new members. And for each of those members, we have a couple suggested actions. So for instance, if you see that there's a lot of engagement happening from non-members, you might suggest that you invite them into your community to be a consistently contributing member within your community. If you see that you have a few new members, we might invite you to, write them a post and welcome them into your community. That's just in general, a best practice that we've seen some of the most successful communities implement within their groups. So some more things that are available to you here within the Community Optimizer is an overview feed that includes things like posts that don't have any replies or engagement on them yet, and questions that also have not been answered yet. We found that engaging with conversations that don't have any engagement on them makes the creators feel, more valid in some of their questions they may have asked or conversations that they may have created. And then they are much more likely to come back and continue asking questions within your community. Versus if you don't acknowledge the contributions of some members, then they will be a lot more likely to not contribute within your community again. So if you want to maintain a thriving and successful community, be sure to go in and try to make sure you're monitoring the conversations that are coming in by either reacting to them, acknowledging them, or bringing in folks that might have like an answer to a question who might be able to contribute to a conversation. And then a couple more key metrics that are available as part of the knowledge sharing are, in general, things like people helped or time saved within the community. So these have been really helpful for community admins who are really trying to share out the ROI that their community is bringing to the organization. You can do that with these key metrics of people helped and time saved, which we'll dive into a little bit more deeply in our next section, which goes into Beyond the Basics. But for now, still covering the fundamentals. This next section covers answer analytics. Sometimes we call this personal answers. These are available to folks who have a Viva Suite or CNC license. So this gives you a personalized view of your Q&A contributions. So you can see things like how many people you have helped, either by asking a question that others might have asked or by answering a question that someone else asked. Some of the math behind this calculation is that we do make the assumption that every Q&A pair has about 15 minutes of time that you've saved other people. So in that way, we're able to calculate the estimated amount of people that you have helped through your Q&A contributions. So that's captured within your answer analytics, as well as some of the top questions or answers that you've provided. There is a network-wide version of our answer analytics available to people who have the Viva Suite or CNC license. And specifically, if you're a knowledge admin or network admin, you can see the global impact of knowledge sharing across your organization directly on global answer analytics. So one of the best things that you could do with the Global Answer Analytics dashboard is understand the question digest section in particular, because that will show you which questions and answers across your organization are the ones that are having some of the most value, some of the most impact across your organization. Okay. Moving on to some of our event analytics. So first and foremost, live event analytics are available to everyone, regardless of licensing. So this will help you monitor engagement during your live event. So let's say you're running a town hall and you want to see how many people have tuned in to view your live event. You can see that here directly through our live event insights, and you can see the trend of engagement that happens over time. You can also see deeper engagement trends, like how many comments or questions are being posted for your particular event. And this is all available to event organizers. And again, all of these metrics do update in real time. We show you an overview as well of like what are the top conversations and questions that were asked during your event. And we found it really, really helpful for organizing teams to come back and address especially questions that might have not been answered or might not have been marked as a best answer after the event, because this is a really good way to kind of close that loop. Once a question gets asked, especially if it gets validated as a best answer after an event, it can be really helpful to make sure that folks who ask questions during your event got the answer that they were seeking. For folks who have a Viva Suite or CNC license, you would have access to AMA analytics. So if you host an Ask Me Anything event, you can understand like summary of engagement, things like how many people attended your event, how many questions were actually asked, and again, how many of those questions that were asked had a best answer associated with them. So these are available also to anybody who has hosted an event or the organizing team, and these metrics all update in real time. So beyond event analytics, you also have network analytics. So we're going to start first with the network analytics that are available to everyone, regardless of licensing. First and foremost, within Viva Engage in the admin center, you have access to export the data through an API. If you use the API, the files come as CSV files. All of these information in this slide, by the way, will be made available to you after the event. But there's a lot of goodness here in the links included in these slides for how you might want to utilize the data export that we have available directly within Engage that's available to network admins. Also within the Microsoft 365 Admin Center, there are additional activity reports, things that let you see across your entire organization, like when someone was last active, the number of total posts, the number of messages that have been viewed, and the number of reactions that happen on posts. You can get that from the M365 Admin Center. And you can also see like where folks are engaging from with the device breakdown. Here's a detailed overview of exactly which APIs are available and the data export available. So this is a really good resource for anybody who does want to make use of some of the data export APIs that we have available. Maybe grab a screenshot, or you can review some of these links in detail. And now to cover a bit more about what network analytics are available in Engage for those who have a Viva Suite or CNC license, you can get a detailed overview of engagement trends across your entire organization. So if you're a network admin or you're a corporate communicator and you're trying to understand which parts of your organization are posting about certain topics or where exactly engagement is happening from, you can get all that information directly within network analytics. So we cover things like reach and engagement across your organization. We show you the breakdown of which clients in particular that engagement is happening from. We showcase the top conversations that are happening. And we also show you who the most frequent contributors are. So if you want to get a sense of who it is that's posting most often across your organization, you can find that information within network analytics. We showcase the most popular communities and trending campaigns. So we've heard these two tables in particular to be really helpful when you're planning your company communication strategy and you're trying to get a sense for which communities tend to be the ones that thrive, and also which campaigns that you might have previously run had the best engagement. You can kind of leverage some of the best practices from either the most popular campaigns or most popular communities to try to implement in any communities or campaigns where you're trying to ensure that there's higher engagement in the future. And finally, within network analytics, you can also access themes and sentiment analysis. So these are AI features that show you at a glance what the major themes people are speaking about across your entire network are. So you would see not just the theme, but also a summary of all the conversations related to that particular theme. And you get a sense of the sentiment that's happening across your entire organization. So we'll let you know whether things are trending positive, or if things are trending negative, then we can also give you some tips on what the major themes are that you might want to address within your organization, so that you have a better idea of where in particular you might want to double click. Yeah. So network analytics has all of these features. It is available to network admins and corporate communicators, and again, does require a Viva Suite or a CNC license to view. Okay. So a couple more experiences here to cover. For those who have that Viva Suite or CNC license, you will have access to personal analytics. All employees have access to personal analytics. If you create a post, then you would see an overview of your reach trends, so you can understand like how many people you've reached within your organization. You can see what type of content has been resonating the most with people, because we also have a top conversations table here. So this is a good thing to come back to, especially if you're trying to continue making content within your organization and you want to get a good sense of what content's resonating most with your audience. The other thing we found really helpful here is coming back to those deltas, measuring like the rate of change of understanding what's going well in one period versus maybe what didn't go so well in the last period. So you can see like your growth trends over time directly on personal analytics for any content that you post. personal analytics is available to everybody. And if you're on a leader's team, like if you're a delegate for them, then you can see their personal analytics. Speaking of leaders, if a leader has an audience assigned to them on Engage, then they can better understand audience trends. So like what's going on within the organization that they are personally trying to target directly through audience analytics. And audience analytics is available not just for leaders, but also for their delegates. So if you're the delegate or like on the comms team for a leader and you're a delegate on their behalf, then you can view these detailed audience analytics. So in addition to things like, reach and engagement, we have sentiment analysis and themes, which really help the leaders understand like what exactly are the key topics that they might need to address within their organization. Okay. Next, I wanted to cover some things related to campaign analytics. So within campaign analytics, if you're running a campaign on Engage and if you're in a network that has the Viva Suite or CNC license, then you can access campaign analytics, which gives you an overview of the type of reach and engagement that you're getting on your posts that are made within your campaign. And something else that is available within campaign analytics are detailed metrics around followers, because we do know it's important to understand the trends in followers on a particular campaign. So beyond that, you can see what the most popular conversations are for your particular campaign, and you can see who's posting the most as well within your campaign. We suggest that anytime that you find that you do have a particularly strong set of frequent contributors contributing content, whether it's to your particular campaign or your network, that you do recognize their contributions. It does matter because it makes them much more likely to continue engaging in the future. It's also just nice to recognize their contributions and thank them for their efforts. And finally, within campaign analytics, something that's unique is the follower funnel and leader funnel. So this shows a breakdown of engagement starting from the top of the funnel, which is, for instance, who are the followers of your campaign, and then shows you what exactly they're doing within the campaign. Beyond following, how deeply they're engaging, whether they're just reacting to content or if they're posting content, you get a better sense of what that funnel looks like. And we've done the same also for leaders in particular. This can be especially helpful if you have like senior leaders sponsoring one of your particular campaigns to better understand the depth of engagement of leaders. Great. Okay, so that wraps up our fundamentals section. And we've discussed all of the analytics experiences that are available to everyone on Viva Engage. That includes experiences that are available to you if you have the M365 license, and experiences that are also available to you if you have the Viva Suite or CNC license. Now we're going to dive a bit more deeply beyond the basics into some of the metrics that we have available to you within analytics that we think brings a lot of value and can help you better understand how people are engaging and connecting with one another on Engage. So I'm going to start by covering benchmarks. We hear this all the time. You know what your metrics are, but now you want to understand whether they're good or where you land relative to others, right? So we have provided that information within both network and audience analytics. So if you're a corporate communicator or network admin, you can see and understand your engagement benchmark within network analytics. And we compare your engagement metrics to other organizations of similar size. And we make that available right within the network analytics dashboard. If you are a leader and you're trying to understand whether the engagement that you're seeing within your organization is, high or relatively low, within your audience engagement metric, we also have a benchmark there for you. So you can see how your engagement compares to other leaders within your organization. Okay. So, this is just the beginning of our benchmarks. We do want to do a lot more here, but we felt like these two spaces were really good spaces to begin providing that type of benchmarking information because we've heard it a lot from customers. So one other thing I wanted to mention is, let's say your benchmark is relatively low. We will provide you with some tips and tricks on how you can improve those benchmarks directly in product 2 by making some suggestions on how you might improve your engagement trends. So next, within network analytics, you can also see announcement effectiveness. So one thing we know to be very true within Engage is that announcements are a really powerful tool and a really powerful way of getting engagement on your most important communications. So we've seen that announcements do tend to have over 5 times as many viewers, over 2 times as many commenters, and almost over 1.5 times more reactions than regular posts tend to have. So a lot of times, we've seen folks use announcements to get more engagement on their most important posts. That said, if you want to understand the typical announcement engagement trends, a really good place to look and analyze this is within network analytics, because we've brought in these metrics to measure the effectiveness of your announcements. So announcements are limited to a few key people within Engage. If you're a leader, you can make an announcement, or if you're an admin of a community, you can make an announcement. So depending on where you post your announcement, we make some assumptions about who your intended audience is. For instance, if you're an admin posting within the community, we make an assumption that your intended audience are members of those communities. Then continuing that analysis, we're able to see how quickly your first view is coming in, how quickly the first reaction they have is coming in, and the % of intended audience that you're actually reaching. So this is a really good place to double check how your announcement effectiveness is going across your organization. And we hope that you can really learn from this metric within network analytics, kind of monitor it over time and see especially how you might strategically improve some of your communications tactics and see how those trends in this metric might change over time. So again, that's available within network analytics to corporate communicators and network admins. And finally, wanted to talk about the importance of admin engagement. So communities really are the heart and soul of Engage networks. If you have thriving communities within your Engage network, you will have a thriving network. And the admin role within communities, cannot be overstated. It's super important to have active admins within communities because we've seen that the communities that thrive the most, the longest, have a very active set of community admins. So a couple of things I want to call out here. One is that we found that it can be really helpful to distribute the responsibility of community management. So some of the most thriving communities tend to have the most community admins actively involved. The role of that community admin is especially important in the early onset of the community. They're in there maintaining some of the rituals that are happening within the community, curating content, but also connecting users to one another within the conversations that are happening, at mentioning the right people, or even just dropping a like on some conversations. That's really, really helpful for community engagement and for maintaining a thriving engagement rate within communities. So we provide the information of total admins, but also we show you the percentage of admins engaged, and the admin response rate is also important to manage, to just kind of give you a sense of the overall admin activity that's happening within the community. So that wraps up my section, Tenny. I'm going to hand it off to you to take us through some more of these key metrics available within Answers.
Thank you, Jovi. All right, so let's talk about some of the value metrics within Engage Analytics. So as Jovi talked about before, we have a time saved metric for our answers. One of the great things about having question and answers live in a product like Engage is that then they're available for anyone else who has that question to come visit, to come see it, come visit, and really saves people time from having to find that answer on their own. And it also saves people time for having to come up with the answer for them. So we quantify time saved for answers, and I'll show you exactly how that's done in just a couple of slides. But the other way that we show the value of questions and answers is through people helped. Engage is really about community. It's about bringing people together. And a really powerful way of showing the value of the contribution that people make on Engage through asking and answering questions is to let them know how many of their colleagues they've helped by either asking or answering that question. And so those are the two ways in which we really show the value of Q&A. So let me just walk you through exactly what this looks like. Imagine that Jill asks the question. Through analysis that we've done, we've found that it takes on average about 5 minutes to ask a question. So people spend about 5 minutes in the publisher drafting their question. And so, every time that someone comes and visits a question answer pair, we know that we've at least saved them the 5 minutes it would take to draft that question on their own. And then Bob comes and answers that question. Again, through a similar analysis, we see that it takes on average about 10 minutes to answer a question. They spend 10 minutes in that publisher, they're drafting the answer. And then, so every time then someone comes and views that question and answer, we say that it has saved someone the 5 minutes it took to ask the question, but also the 10 minutes it would take to answer the question. So when we then surface these value metrics back to the various dashboards for Jill, we'll tell her that she's saved others 45 minutes. So for the 3 people that have come to visit the question that she asked, for each of them, it saved them 45 minutes, and she helped 3 people with the question that she asked. And then when Bob goes and visits his analytics, he'll see he also helped save the 45 minutes for those 3 people. But then within our global answers dashboard, we'll show that the global time saved is 45 minutes. Again, 15 minutes for each of the 3 people that came to see that question and answer pair. I think it's just like a really nice way of really showing the value of asking and answering questions. This is time that's, and people are really glad to save. It's, often a frustrating time it takes to go find the answer to a question. It's also, really nice to know that others have that same question as you do, and that there's colleagues out there who are willing to answer them for you. Another way that we've been thinking about measuring the value of Engage and just a top level, really the value of the entire Engage deployment and just the investment and the time it takes to use Engage is through our employee retention metric. So this is within our network analytics dashboard. In developing this metric, what we really wanted to step back and think about was that, if we're doing our job really well as the Viva Engage product, what's the impact that we should be able to help our customers realize? What would happen for our customers? And just kind of going back to the research and the purpose of a tool like this, as an employee experience tool that's meant to create community and connection and clarity, if a tool is able to do that, the way that value gets realized is by making customers or employees happier at their jobs. And when people are happier and more satisfied with their work, they stay with their employers longer. And so we really wanted to explore an employee retention metric. And so that's what we show within our network analytics. And the metric that we shows the 3-month employee retention rate difference between the employees at the company that use Engage and those who have access to Engage but do not use it. So it shows the difference between those 2 groups. So let me show you a little bit about the work that went behind the scenes to develop the metric that you can see in product today. So, again, when we were developing, this metric, one was like, well, one question was, how do we measure employee retention in a pretty reliable way? We don't have HR data, we don't have official employment start and end dates, but what we do have is a rich set of signals from the M365 suite. including the day that accounts are created and activated, the day that they're deactivated and deleted. And we also know when signals are coming in, like usage signals of Outlook or Exchange or Word. So we can see if an account is being used. And that's what we use to create a proxy for an employee's first and last day. It's when do we first and last see them with any activity within the M365 suite. So using that proxy, we're able to compare the length of retention at a company for those that do and don't use Engage. And so any usage is if they just view content or do anything at all on Engage compared to those that have access but don't use it. That difference is 12 percentage points higher for those that do use Engage, and that's a 1-year retention rate difference. And what's interesting is that we see an even bigger difference when compared to those that use Engage a bit more intensely, those that react and write on Engage. So we were really happy, I'm pleased to see this, but we wanted to make sure that this isn't just picking up a correlation, that there's something actually causal about it. Causal studies are really hard to do in these settings because we can't use the gold standard of just setting up experiments and running experiments at this scale. But what we can do is look at observational data. We can compare companies that have more and less Engage usage and then control for differences between them. So when we're comparing across companies, and we model it controlling for organization size, country, and industry, we find that going from 0 to 100% of the organization using Engage corresponds to about an 11 percentage point increase in overall employee retention. So that's 1-year retention. So that's comparing across industries. We can also look within a company. So that is, we can look within the same company. If they expand or contract their Engage usage, how does their employee retention respond to that? So even within companies, we can see that when their Engage usage increases, their employee retention increases as well. So going from 0% of your org to 100% of your org using Engage would then correspond to a 7.8 percentage point increase in overall employee retention. And we know that that's not only good for the bottom line of the company, but it's also great for employee morale. And it means that something's going right and that employees are really able to connect with one another and connect with the purpose of their company and of their work. Also, within network analytics coming soon, we have organizational data filtering and also additional data export support. So within network analytics, you'll soon be able to filter the entire dashboard by the employee organizational characteristics, meaning their country, department, and their job title. So this is data that we get from your organization's Entra ID, and it can be supplemented via data upload through the M365 Admin Center. So if this is something that you'd be interested in using as part of your Engage deployment, I just highly recommend going in and checking the quality of your organization's data within Entra ID, so specifically country, department, and job title. And if it's not exactly the way you would want it to be, or if those fields are missing, please check out the M365 Admin Center and how you can upload exactly the data that you want for the employees, so that when you have the opportunity to use these data filters, that you're able to see exactly the right attributes for the for your employees, so you get a really nice clean view of your employee Engage usage. So we're really excited about that. So kind of to wrap things up, what we wanted to do was share some of the best practices. One of the great things about becoming developing an in-products analytics dashboard after spending years as a team on product analytics, that is really understanding what makes for great Engage usage, really healthy usage, is that we have so many insights that we've developed and found over the years that we can then come back and share those with you here, and also build those into the product. So one of the big takeaways for us over the years is that leader engagement really drives employee engagement. What we found is that if an employee receives a reply on a post from a leader, that boosts their daily engagements for not only the week that reply occurs, but also for an entire month. So, just that week after an employee gets a reply from a leader, their engagement increases 6%, and then an entire month later, their engagement increases 9%. And I think part of this is because it really validates the time that they're spending on Engage. They know that important people are listening, they're willing to listen to them and their ideas. So there really is this feedback effect and this positive effect from leaders engaging with employees. We also find that employees that whose leaders are more actively engaged on Engage are more highly retained and more productive than those whose leaders are less active on Engage. So we found that over the span of 2 years, if an employee's leaders are in the most active group, they are 30%. They have a 30% higher retention rate than those whose leaders are the least active on Engage. So why is this? One, just like I talked about, is that if your leaders are active on Engage, they're more likely to be active with you as an employee, and really, again, give you that feeling that your leaders are listening to you, they're interacting with you, and they really care about you. The second is that it helps employees align with the leader's strategic updates, or employees know what's important to the leader in terms of the business, and so really gives them the sense of clarity about what they're doing at work. Leaders help connect people to one another. Often leaders have a more of a bird's eye view of the business, and so they're able to then connect. If they see that someone posts about something, they're able to then connect them to other people working on something similar, and really help facilitate and speed up progress and work. And then finally, it just creates a positive culture by example. Often we see that leaders that use Engage well aren't just posting strategic updates. They're also posting personal updates, or anecdotes, or just things that humanize them. And I think it not only allows people to understand and relate to their leaders more, but it also just creates an example of how the employees can represent themselves on Engage and create just a more positive culture at work in general. So we know that leaders impact employee engagement. So how can we impact leader engagement? So we know if we can get the leaders to be more engaged, then we know that will have these wonderful follow-on effects for their employees. So we have some, just some tips that we've picked up along the way. Feel free to screenshot this page. You can try implementing it today or tomorrow, anytime this week. And of course, this deck will be available for you later on as well, so you can grab this information later. So just some ways to boost leader engagement. One is assign a delegate manager. So make sure that every leader, has a delegate manager and delegates as well, just to make sure that posting is happening, posting and replying and interacting is just happening on a regular cadence. Only 25% of leaders have delegates, but even posts made by delegates get more engagement than the average post. And so, people like engaging with leaders' posts. It doesn't necessarily have to be written by the leader in order for that to happen. The other is to assign an audience. So an audience is just kind of this quick way to get a full set of followers, so you can make sure that when a leader creates content that content gets the reach and the engagement that a leader would want and expect. And of course, the employees also want to make sure that they are seeing relevant content from their leaders. So there is a leader, they should also have an audience assigned to them. A third tip is to be sure to post as a person, not as an account. So we see very frequently that at a company, you might post from an account like company news or like a senior leader connection. If a post comes from an actual person's account, it is far more likely to get engagement than from a just from a non-person account. I mean, I think it's like it feels pretty intuitive. People want to feel connection to people, and we see this really resonating within the data as well. That post as a person whenever possible. When leaders can be posting to their storyline, especially when they have an audience assigned, so so that storyline posts will get the reach that they need, but also making sure that a leader has one or two favorite communities that they post in. It makes it more easily discoverable, especially by people who are maybe not necessarily in their audience, but whose content would be interesting to them as well. So just a couple places that a leader might like to post, have those communities favorited. And then the last is just be thoughtful about posting schedules. More is not always better. In this case, we found that the sweet spot for most leaders is posting once a week or once every other week. And we hope that that's actually a really manageable amount for a leader and their delegate. And the reason is that employees want to hear from their leaders, but they want to hear from their leaders when it really matters and when there's like something really important to share. They don't need to hear from a leader every day. So once a week, once every other week. If it's a more senior leader, like a CEO, they can post more frequently without that same decrease in engagement. But again, once a week really should be plenty. And just more posts for posting like a pro. And this is advice, we give to leaders, but we would give to anyone who's creating content on Engage. First is, post in an active community, and a public community will encourage more engagement. So first, just about an active community. Before posting in a community, just make sure that there's recent engagement in it, recent posts, recent replies and comments. That just ensures that folks will see the content that is being posted. And then with public communities, so of course, private communities have their place. Sometimes that's just where you should be posting. But the wonderful thing about public communities is that posting in a public community really allows that information to proliferate across a network through search and discovery. And it also allows, that information to proliferate over time. And so often discovery, it happens months later, or sometimes even years later, people will discover content that's been created in a public community. Second is to mention someone who might find the post relevant. This just helps get that conversation going. It increases the likelihood of engagement, and it kind of prevents what we're trying, that post without an engagement. That's the thing we always want to avoid. So just mention someone and just help get that conversation going. Be wary of using storyline unless you have followers. Leaders should have an audience. So in that case, leaders post to your storyline once you have your audience set up. But for folks with less than 10 followers, we just recommend posting in a community instead. This really then ensures that you're going to have people see the content, interact with the content, and that's really the purpose of it. Time to post. This is a common question we get asked, is like, well, when should we post to get the most engagement? So for office workers or desk workers, the best times to post are Tuesday and Wednesday mornings. Really, you want to kind of pick pick earlier in the day, so that ensures that people will see it throughout that day and earlier in the week as well, to increase the likelihood that it'll be picked up by one of the digest emails. The time to avoid is Friday afternoon. We see that a lot of leaders actually have created a habit for ending their week with posting on Engage. Friday is such a great time for kind of winding down and doing something like that, but that's actually not a good time for getting engagement. So, the better habit is to start the week with a post and then kind of give it that week for it to gain traction and momentum. Post length and post length. So you want content to have, some substance, something a little bit longer, something for people to be able to react or respond to. But extremely long posts tend to discourage replies. And the reason for that is if someone hasn't read the entire post, they don't want to reply to it because they don't want to make it seem like they missed something. So, you want it to have some substance, include media, so either photos or video. People spend more time with content that has media attached. And then finally, end your post with a question or a call to action. Let people know how you want them to engage with your content. Is it a question you want them to answer? Do you want them to give you an example of something that they've seen? Do you want them to include a photo of something? Really just provide direction. It gives them more confidence. And really the difference between, posting on Engage and maybe, consumer social media is that people need to have a lot of confidence when they're posting on Engage. They need to be feeling really good that what they're doing is valued and correct and safe. And so the more we can guide people when we're creating posts, the better it is. And then just a couple more, just more generally how to support employee engagement. One is that each person should be a member of at least 5 communities. So 5 is kind of our rule of thumb, and it should be a combination of corporate communication communities, an organization or team community, a professional interest, and a personal interest community. So, there should be some mix of those in there to really help kind of complete out, what makes up someone's work life. Downloading the Engage app is a great way for folks to be able to engage on the go. So, Engage is it's often a habit, especially, leaders will do this, is that it's something that they can check between meetings. It's something that they can check on the go, and having the app, just really facilitates that. So we really encourage folks having the app downloaded to get these little, tidbits of engagement throughout the day. Encouraging managers to post on Engage. If someone's manager posts on Engage, they're twice as likely to post themselves. Really, it's, your manager really sets a tone for what's expected, how to work. So, managers are a great way to really set that example. And the other, just use announcements strategically. As Jovi mentioned, announcements have just so much more reach and engagement as non-announcements, but you really want to just, use them carefully, and just use them for the messages that really matter. And finally, my last set of tips is how to manage your community like a pro. Also, as Jovi mentioned, really community management it's so critical to driving engagement on Engage, and communities really are the soul of it. So one is, be sure to mark best answer on any questions. Questions with a best answer mark get 20% more reactions and replies than those that are answered but not with a best answer. You want to post weekly to maintain community activity. The communities with the most continued engagement have about 20 new posts per month. And so, if you seed ideas as the community manager, if you seed ideas weekly, it really encourages members to post. And Copilot is just such a great way to be able to kind of get those ideas of, what can I post about? What should I be posting about in my data science community or my product community? Really get those out there. And again, post earlier in the week. That'll help as well. Be sure to react or reply to all posts in your community. When a creator does not get any engagement on the post, they're 2 times less likely to post again. So, really encourage their engagement by engaging with their content. Encourage users to add others to communities. Users are 5 times more likely to engage with the community when they're added by a coworker than when they're added by email import. So, it could be that one of your weekly posts is, would any of your coworkers love this community? If so, add them, welcome them in, have a welcome post, and then really encourage community that way. And then finally, the last one is just really help seed those communities early on. Communities with a lot of admin engagement in the first 3 to 4 months of the community's life are far more successful in the long run than those that don't have that high engagement at the beginning. So when you're taking time to build that community, invest in that community, just kind of put it in early on, and you'll really see it grow over time. So I'll pass it back off to Jovi, who kind of will kind of take us back to how in-product analytics can help you do just that.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Tenny. Okay, so coming back to some of the things that are available within the Engage analytics experiences, I really wanted to showcase how some of these best practices and tips that can help you use Engage analytics like a pro are available today within the analytics experiences that you have access to, particularly if you do have a Viva Suite or CNC license. Right? So for conversation and announcements in particular, just wanted to reiterate the importance of monitoring your reached and your engagement metrics and really looking at those deltas, those rate of changes right next to those metrics, because that can help you understand how things are shifting from one month to the next, and then you can adjust your communication strategies accordingly. Again, also within the conversations trends table, it can be really helpful to see whether one of your conversations in particular has been featured or pinned, or if you yourself are the one who's featuring or pinning a message, you can see which action in particular led to a spike in engagement directly within your conversation analytics on the conversation trends table. There's that awesome announcement effectiveness metric that helps you better understand how announcements are being received across your organization. Not only do we show you that first time that view came in, but also when your first reaction came in on your announcements. And we look at what the medians are across your entire organization, so you can understand, where in particular and how exactly announcements are being received, and whether you're really reaching the majority of your intended audience. Because if you're not, then there's some things that you can do to adjust your communication strategies. And finally, themes. Themes are available within your conversation analytics. They're also available within network analytics, but if you really want to get granular and understand what are the major themes that are happening within comments and what's the sentiment associated within my reply section, like how is my content resonating with my audience, and we really suggest that you use this information that's available within conversation analytics to get a better sense of that. Okay, some best practices for network and audience. Like I said, there are themes and sentiment available in both of these spaces. That provides an aggregate overview, so you can see within a particular group, so either your leader's audience or across your entire network, how content is resonating. You can understand a little bit more about where exactly your users are engaging from, and this is available for every activity that people do on the network. So it's not just understanding where posts are coming from, but also where are the majority of comments and reactions coming from, and where are the majority of views coming from. This tends to be fairly different within our customers. So I think I would really encourage you, especially if you have access to network analytics. Again, network admins and corporate communicators have access to network analytics, to double check this today and see, where the majority of posts coming from versus where the majority of views coming from, because then you can better understand, where are the passively engaged users primarily at versus maybe where are some of those more active contributors located within your organization, and like where it is that they tend to like engaging with engaged content. Again, we also have those benchmarks available to you within network and audience analytics, and that helps you kind of level set how your engagement trends are doing compared to others. And also want to make sure that I do highlight that within network analytics, you can see the popular communities table. So you can understand across your organization which communities in particular tend to be the ones that are thriving. And from these communities, really encourage you to get some of those maybe best practices of whoever is running and managing those communities. If you can bring some of those best practices into your other communities, there's a lot of really good learnings there. And also within your audience analytics, this is available to leaders and delegates on that leaders team. You can see which communities are the ones that audience members tend to be most active in. So this gives leaders and their teams a really good understanding of where it is that most of the community activities happening versus which communities tend to be a little bit more idle in nature. And finally, some takeaway tips for communities and campaigns in particular. A lot of this has to do with really just recognizing the contributions of those who are contributing most often. You've heard us say it a few times now, just really want to run it home again, that engaging with content that your content creators are making can increase their retention by over 2 times. So if somebody gets a response or reaction to a post that they made, then they're 2 times more likely to continue creating content, whether that's within your community or within your campaign or just within your network. It's really important to try to really encourage that positive creation pattern to have a thriving community, which, like we covered, is the backbone of having a thriving, engaged network. So yeah, that wraps up, I think, some of our engage with analytics like a pro section. And I just also really wanted to thank everybody for joining us here today. I really, really appreciate your time and love the opportunity to connect with all of you. Samik, I'll hand it off to you.
Thank you so much, Jovi. Thank you, Tenny. I'm sure everyone took value from the session. If there are any questions, final thoughts, comments, please feel free to add them in the chat or in the Q&A section. We're happy to answer them, or to come off mute if that's an option available. Again, thank you for joining us. The recording for the session will be available later this week, and we'll share more details in our customer community. James has posted a link to join the customer community. So if you're not already part of the community, please join us. We have a lot of events lined up for the customer community, namely the demo day event, opportunity for customers to share their story. It's again coming up very, very soon. So we're looking forward to connecting with all of you. Thank you for joining. Thank you for all the questions and discussions in chat.